Okay, please. Thank you. It is now 7:01. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Jerome Town Council conducted via Zoom today, Tuesday, December 14th at 7:01 p.m. Candace, would you please call the roll for us?
Mayor Dillenberg,
Present.
Vice Mayor Worth is not yet present. Ms. Harvey,
Here.
Ms. Barber,
Present.
Ms. Moore.
Here.
Thank you. Couple things, please, council members. We have access to Bill Sims only until 8 o'clock, and we need him to participate in 3 areas, the 7A, 8C, and 8D. So with your permission, I'm going to move those 3 up to after our financial reports, please. If that is okay with everyone, so that way we can honor his needs and get our work done that we need to. Thank you so very much. And just before we go to the financial reports, I want to do a quick shout out to Marty and the town crew for the great job they did on the water repair today. That was a big deal, and they've been working on it for a number of days, and hats off to them and sincere appreciation for their continued great work. Appreciate it. So please, financial reports. Any comments, additions, corrections? We see Melanie here. Candace, any comments on that? Alex, I see your hand up. I see. Good, thank you. Mandy, yay. Okay, Mandy's connecting. Great. Anyone have any questions or concerns? Hearing none, then I'd like to get a motion to accept the financial reports.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second, please?
Second.
We got a couple seconds there. I got Alex's. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you for the financial reports and the wonderful work always, Melanie. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
All right, I see Bill. I see Carol Whitner, and I thought I saw Bill on there for a moment.
There.
There you are.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to ask you how you got through your procedure, the pain in the butt that it was, but it's, hope you're okay.
Doctors love doing that to lawyers.
I know. There you go. I hope, well, we'll talk about it at a future time. But anyway, we're going to discuss the issues that we'd like your input in, Bill, because we know you have an 8 o'clock, you're limited time with us. So we're going to move directly to 7A, please, which is the second reading and possible adoption of ordinance 477, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Jerome, Yavapai County, Arizona, approving an amendment to the zoning map.
Mayor, Sage
yes,
has her
please.
hand up.
Yes, Sage.
I would like to make a motion that we go into e-session for this, as I was not available for the last meeting. That was a special meeting that had to do with some of this. And I would like to talk to Mr. Sims about the legalities of it. Thank you.
Good, no problem at all. Is there we don't need a second, do we? Do we?
Second.
Yes.
Okay, good. Second, I'm sure Jane, was that Jane? Oh, no, it was Alex. Sorry, it was Alex. Sorry, Alex. There you go.
Second by Alex.
Second by Alex. All those in favor of going into executive session, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, it is now 7:05 and we're going into executive session.
Hey, bear with me,
Okay.
public. I'm going to move you all into the waiting room briefly while we conduct this.
Thank you.
Is that everybody?
I
Okay.
believe so.
Stopping the recording.
Well done.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm letting people back in now. This always takes a little while, so bear with me. Oh, here we go. I can admit everybody at once.
Great. Are we recording?
Yes, we are.
So it is now 7:27 and we're now back into our open session. And Thank you, Counselor, and we got some good progress I'm excited about, and thank you, Cameron, too. And Mandy, why don't we discuss our plan here, please?
If the counselor would like to let
Bill?
if the counselor would like to speak first, that would be great.
Okay,
Yes,
Bill,
Madam Vice,
please.
yes, Madam Vice Mayor. I've had some very productive conversations with Mr. Sinclair today to address his concern to allow the town to proceed with the rezoning while figuring out a way to acknowledge his verbal commitment to address subsidence and issues concerning right-of-way adjacent to his property and in the general neighborhood. He and I discussed, rather than rigidly tying the rezoning now to a development agreement that would be entered to now with imminent date certain regarding construction, he had some concerns about that. I asked him if we could address it via, like you normally do with a zoning matter, with a stipulation, is that the property would be rezoned subject to a stipulation regarding entering into a development agreement that would address subsidence and address rights of way issues. Two things that he's told the public that he would like to do, both for the betterment of the community and for the betterment of his property. Council has just heard about, Mr. Sinclair heard about it about 3.5 hours ago when we talked about it, when he raised the concern, and you see later in this agreement, in this agenda, where we were talking about a development agreement. And some of the deadlines there were premature for a whole bunch of reasons. Some on council, some of your citizens had reservations about trying to agree to a development agreement before some of the data was better known. For example, which other properties need like UVX need access before, without, regarding rights of way that might be abandoned. Where are the rights of way? And so how would we define subsidence remediation? I had proposed a development agreement that really rigidly define those in the very near term. Mr. Sinclair suggested they could be a little bit longer term. And he and I did discuss that this council could approve the zoning, which I suspect, I think I heard that council is very positive regarding that zoning, if we can address the stipulation. What I'm here, and because this is a zoning matter, we need to make sure that if we don't do this tonight, we do it to an absolute date certain, so that we don't have to worry about renoticing and all the rest. And so what I'm going to recommend, because Mr. Sinclair, council saw the language literally 30 minutes ago, and they had a number of questions. I think I suspect they're very supportive of the idea of adopting the zoning, subject to a stipulation. They would just like for me to discuss with you the terms of that stipulation, and then discuss with them, so we can bring back at the next meeting, which is when, Candace?
January 11th.
Of the rezoning ordinance with a stipulation included that you have approved and that they have approved. I drafted language earlier today. I think Mr. Sinclair is okay with the language. Council just saw it. They have additional questions. So my request is we acknowledge the constructive approach that Mr. Sinclair has taken. We appreciate greatly his ideas about addressing subsidence and addressing right-of-way that benefits not only him, but significantly benefits the town. I believe there will be sufficient votes on council to approve the rezoning subject to a stipulation, but they have asked to see that language more with greater, so that they have more than like 5 minutes to review it. I honestly sent it to them 10 minutes ago. So my hope is, and I hope Mr. Sinclair doesn't see this as regression, I would suggest that the motion would be to table to a date certain and time certain and a location certain, so that we don't have to duplicate any notices. I then send language to Mr. Sinclair and his partner, and I send language to council that we've approved, so that when we take this to council at the next meeting, it can be approved.
Thank you, Counselor. Any questions from council? I think you did a
Dr.
good-
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion if possible.
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion to table this particular agenda item to Tuesday, January 11th at 7 p.m. during our next regularly scheduled council meeting,
Seconded.
for the reasons stated by the counselor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. We have a second. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
And I
And-
would like it noted that I have had recused myself from this item.
Yes. Thank you very much, Shane.
Mr. Mayor, Dr. Mayor, Candace,
Yes.
I don't have the agenda in front of me. Does the agenda, I'm wondering if Mr. Sinclair, does the agenda have anything about public comment? I need to pull up the agenda.
Well, in terms of petitions from the public, it does, but generally, council has always allowed public comment on any item.
So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, I know you've already voted. I mean, we could reconsider it if Mr. Sinclair would like to comment. I think, Dr. Mayor, that's your choice, but I think it would be, he's the applicant. And I was trying to jump in before you voted, is to ask him his thoughts.
Good. Well, Mr. Sinclair, we appreciate what the direction we're going. Are you okay with where we are? Do you have any comments that you would like to add or address?
Sorry, hopefully you can hear us. We're
Yes.
sitting in the middle of the Mojave Desert, trying to get back to Jerome. The weather is also bad out here. I think Bill and I and Bethany talked at length today about how to make it beneficial for the town as well as us so that we can move forward. We know that the rezoning can take time as well as the subsidence issues. Our challenge is, and as you know, in order to build a retaining mechanism for to prevent subsidence, we're going to have to go through planning and zoning and DRB, and it could take upwards of a year to a year and a half to go through that process through the Jerome commissions and council. So the way it was written before, we had to start construction within literally a few weeks, which is just technically not viable given how we the speed at which we move here in Jerome. So I understand where he's coming from. I think the language that he's put together this afternoon actually is fitting. It's something that Bethany and I agreed on. We were reading it while you were in e-session. If you guys want to table this another month, so be it. But you know, we will be doing a series of things as soon as that vote is done. So whether it happens today or whether it happens in a month, it's really on the council. It does delay our construction and our development by another month. But you know, we've been at this for almost a year now. So I think the next meeting will be exactly a year from when we first proposed the unification of the rezone.
Thank you. Yeah, we're moving in the right direction, and I'm very pleased about that. So thank you very much for your efforts. Get home safely, please. And so the motion was made, seconded, and passed. Appreciate your comments. And if we can move on to our next item of business, please. 8C. Yes, Candace.
No, I was going to just remind us that we were going to address 8C next.
Yes, we are. So 8C, contractual options for addressing street abandonment and subsistence. So we're going to discuss this again with our town attorney. Do we need to go into executive session at this point, or can we begin our discussion?
No, sir, you don't. I mean, this will be the substance of what Mr. Sinclair, and I apologize. I was trying to get this out.
Yeah.
And technically it did have a 30-day window. I was, and Mr. Sinclair was very cooperative and pointed out that was unreasonable. We need to address that. I think you should direct the town attorney and the manager to meet with Mr. Sinclair and his business colleague and figure out the terms of a development agreement that meet the needs of the city, to addressing subsidence, addressing abandonment of rights of way, and to come up with a term sheet that you could live with and that they could live with. But I do think between now and early January, we can draft language for the zoning ordinance so the zoning could be passed with the stipulation, and the stipulation then would require a development agreement that we're now in the throes of working. So tonight's action, this doesn't require tabling. It isn't a zoning matter where we need to table it to a date certain. I would request that this council direct the town attorney, direct the manager, to enter into negotiations with Mr. Sinclair concerning a development agreement. I mean, I drafted that out of whole cloth. I sent it to him. We hadn't had the chance to review it.
Absolutely. No,
He
got it.
looked at it and said he had some concerns. So we can have those discussions pending the next council meeting in January. So there's no action.
Someone's got to give
I
me,
fixed
thank you.
it.
Yeah. What was
There's
that?
two more that are unmuted.
So,
Rick Klein and Jera. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
what was that? I'm sorry. Oh, do we need to have a motion for this to go forward with this
Bill,
discussion?
you're muted. Bill.
I
you're
think we can just do direction, Dr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I think-
I'm sorry.
Right, great, yeah,
I also, as the applicant, would like to just quickly speak on this.
okay,
So just to note and to reiterate, the work around the subsidence and the right of way is not connected to the rezone. The rezone is actually something very different. It's actually about unification. So the challenge that we have is we're not negotiating us building retaining systems that could cost upwards of $500,000 in exchange for rezone, because that would be seen as pressure on a private applicant. What it is what we're negotiating, what the council need to be very clear about is we're negotiating abandonment and subsidence issues, liability, in exchange for our commitment to support the town by basically paying for the retaining system that should be the liability of the town. So I just want to make those
Thank
things
you.
separate.
thank you. Thank you. So the motion,
There was
how
no-
should we-
Not a motion. You're just giving me direction.
no, direction, you got the direction, you know what we're doing, we've talked about it a few times already, so let's move forward then. Thank you, Bill. No other questions or comments? We know we're moving forward with that, great.
Okay.
And now we've got 8D. Is that correct? Short-term
no.
rentals, I've heard of them.
So have I. It was one of my first efforts for your town.
I know,
I
boy,
know.
It was as fun as my procedure yesterday.
yeah. Okay, so where are we at with this? In terms of what we can do? I know Sedona has an ordinance. I know that near Phoenix, with the HOAs, they've got to set up some HOAs there that are really maybe working effectively. Where are we going with this, Bill?
Mr. Mayor, this is Dr. Mayor, I'm sorry. This is a problem that jurisdictions across the state are having to encounter. And in fact, cities and towns in Yavapai County have convened a work group comprised of the zoning administrators trying to collectively figure out how to address. Because our legislature has stepped in at the behest of the VRBO lobby and have greatly limited local jurisdictions' power to regulate. Having said that, there are some options, and I will brief you on a couple of the options tonight, but I think you should give us direction as to pursue those. One option, and Sedona has been at the lead on this, and they were the subject of what's called an SB 1487 complaint. And the AG wrote them a letter saying they were going to lose their state shared revenue. Candace, annually, how much state shared revenue does Jerome get?
Just under $300,000, about 284,000 in this year's budget anticipated.
And what Sedona did, because they tried to regulate, and they received a complaint. I'm sorry, the AG received an complaint from one legislator, and then the AG then launches into investigation and determined that Sedona had violated the law and threatened to take their state shared revenue. That's exactly what could happen here. So what could we do? You do need to do something. And so one example that Sedona has done, and that the other jurisdictions in Yavapai County are hoping to clone, is they've become very rigorous in what is allowed under the statute. The statute allows you to require the property owner to identify a person who can be contacted almost immediately to solve noise, to solve traffic, to solve trash. And the way Sedona's works, if they don't respond, I think in 60 minutes, it's a violation, and it would be technically a crime for which they could be cited civilly, and there's a $2,500 penalty. And so what they're doing is they're saying, we may not be able to regulate, But the legislature said we can require what the legislature allowed, and that is contacts. And so the VRB, I'm sorry, the short-term rental owner has to post the name of the contact to the occupants. And you have to know what the name, so that if there's a complaint, that person gets contacted and then immediately has to respond or faces this sanction, a civil violation under the code. That's one option. Secondly, you always have the option under your police power, noise, and inordinate amount of traffic, as long as you apply the same rules against a short-term rental that you apply any rentals. And so you always have that option. Thirdly, as Dr. Mayer pointed out, some jurisdictions are attempting to regulate that via HOAs, homeowners associations. That works more likely in examples that don't benefit your own. It works in the larger communities where you have vacant properties that are now being platted, and they're coming to the council asking for a plat. And the property owner, it's in his or her interest to say to home buyers, they won't have to suffer at the hands of neighbors renting out their houses for short-term rentals, to put in a condition in the HOA documents, the CC&Rs, that prohibits short-term rentals. That's enforceable. What is more challenging is to impose an HOA after the fact and try to require properties already developed to come into HOAs and agree to HOAs that are subject to this restriction, because the property owner that doesn't want to be subject to it just wouldn't sign. And so you'd have outliers and really gutting the ability. A fourth way that is creative that Flagstaff is exploring, and that is deed restrictions. And we have to be careful so that we don't target deed restrictions, you, the government, on only short-term rentals. And this is something we're still working through. And this work group, frankly, John Knight is chairing it from Camp Verde now, is exploring options for, you know what, if you're in a residential district and you want to have an ancillary building, a guest house, we don't have and we'll say we'll only authorize a guest house if you deed restrict it to not be short-term rentals. Now, there's some intricacies there. We got to worry about making sure the government's hand isn't too direct, and making sure that the granting of the ancillary building is discretionary and not used by right. So that what they're saying is, for us to be able to have the cottage, the guest house, we have to agree to limit it so it's not short-term rental. So those are four options. Completely barring them is probably something that you were, regrettably, you were the target of the Goldwater Institute when we tried to regulate short-term rentals in the past, and we lost. And so I suspect, were we to try to rigidly and broadly prohibit short-term rentals in a way that violates the statute, I suspect there'd be a complaint. I regret to say, I only report what the legislature has done. The way to fix this is to address the legislation. People have tried to do that, and the short-term rental lobby has fought back.
Thank you, Bill.
Mayor,
I see
Jane,
some hands up. Yeah, Jane? Thank you.
I have a couple questions regarding Senate Bill 1350. It says the regulation is narrowly tailored to protect public health and safety, and for the following purposes, one of which is transportation traffic control. And we require, for instance, an apartment or two apartments, that there are a certain amount of parking that they must have for those apartments. And if a short-term rental is renting out separate rooms and advertising that they have separate rentals, could we require that they provide the parking for each of those separate rentals, the way that we require apartments to rent per apartment? That's one of my questions. And then in C of this, I would like this explained. It says, for the purposes of this section, vacation rental or short-term rental means any individually or collectively owned single family or 1 to 4 family house or dwelling unit, and then goes on to condominium. It said that that is also a transient public lodging establishment. Well, to me, that says, if it says vacation rentals or short-term rentals means any individually single-family home that is also a transient public lodging establishment. We don't have any public lodging establishments in residential zones.
Yes, you do.
Candace, did you have a response for that?
Bill is muted. I thought he was going to say
I'm
something.
always muted. The problem, Jane, is 1350, is that the bill that adopted the short-term? What are you reading from?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
She's reading from Sedona's ordinance.
No,
Oh.
this is the actual
Oh.
1350.
that's 1350, yeah.
Also in Sedona's.
Well, Jane, I think what they're saying is once you go over 30 days, then it's a long-term lease, and that's our problem. Is a single family homeowner, she can rent her house out to someone, and we have to be careful trying to regulate short-term rentals, because whatever you do is going to have to apply to long-term rentals. Do you follow me? And that's why they have that. I think that transit is a 30-day issue. And so the problem is, if you are going to try to regulate short-term, whatever you do has to apply to all residences. And so if you're going to say, if we're going to require additional parking, then are you going to require additional parking if someone rents out their house to more people than what they had before? I just don't know. I mean, but I'll be happy to look at that. I mean, that's a fifth. What you're saying is, let's try to address it with parking. But whatever we do, and parking is like quicksand there in Jerome. Whatever we do, whatever we do has to apply to single family residences as well.
But that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If somebody advertises that they have separate units to rent out, essentially an apartment in their home, they're required to provide more parking for an apartment in their home.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you tell me if I rent my house out and I rent it out to 4 people, it's a frat house, and I rent it out to 4 people, and I don't call it an apartment, do I have to get parking?
No, because it would be a shared kitchen. But if people do advertise, I've seen this, where they advertise that they have separate units as rentals. So how would this be any different than if somebody, because, well, one of the things we've said, that accessory buildings are not to be lived in, period.
Mhm.
So that is restricted as far as building a separate building that is rented out. And there have been rentals where they've said they have 3 separate units to rent, which is different from somebody having a roommate. And we require that a house that becomes 2 apartments rather than a single family, that they be able to provide parking for that extra unit.
Even with one kitchen?
No.
I'm saying, I would think that they would get around it by having one kitchen shared by the different units.
Well, yes, they do, but
Dr.
what
Mayor's
if
right. I
they're
mean,
advertising it as
They can get
separate
around that
units?
pretty easy. They can get around that pretty easy.
Okay.
But it's a
Jane,
good, I'm glad you raised it. I mean,
Jane, what you're saying is, let's add a 5th to see if there's a
Yeah.
way we can
If there's
require
another
additional
option.
parking. But my problem is, whenever we start getting our nose under the tent of parking, we unearth lots of different problems there in Jerome. And
Yeah.
so, but let me look at parking. What you're saying is, but whatever we're gonna do, we have to do to those single family residents as well. And if you're gonna require additional parking for multiple short-term rental, well, here's a question. So what if it's just one rental? I mean, what if they just?
Well, it would not apply then.
Okay,
No,
okay.
what I'm saying, for instance, when we just rezoned an area RCU 2A, which means that a single family home could be divided into 2 apartments, they're only allowed to do that if they can provide the parking for 2 units.
Mhm. But that's the doctor's point. I think it's 2 units with a kitchen. And so the question becomes, is I'm not sure every short-term rental may have a kitchen. I mean, so that, I just don't know. And
Yeah.
so.
Right.
That's,
we're gonna
Well,
have-
some of
But
them
it-
might.
we got to look at it. I mean, it's a great question to look at, Jane. Thank you.
Well, Jane, what you're saying is, let me add it to a fifth, is we need to make sure, is there a way we could require additional parking for short-term rentals? My answer is yes, if whatever we do to them, we do to all other
Right.
residents.
Yeah,
That's what we have to do.
thank
And
you.
then let me get back to you on that.
Thank you. Can I go to Mandy and then we have Sage?
Thank you, Dr. Mayor.
Yep.
I am intimately familiar with this issue from before, from 1350 being discussed before it was even passed. The state has really tied our hands in big, huge ways. And the short-term rental group, the group that's doing advocacy at the state level to try to get them to understand what the impact truly is on our communities and our residents, have really kind of gone round and round and round. Doing an HOA in Jerome is just not feasible. And I hate to be a downer on that, but it just isn't. And the fact that we don't really have room for accessory buildings and our code already prohibits them from being occupied as a residence, kind of kiboshes the whole thing that Flagstaff's working on, though I am fairly intrigued about it. But what Sedona has done as far as using 1370s restrictions to their advantage to regulate, that is probably more up our alley. I think that it would need some obvious modifications to accommodate Jerome itself. But at least, you know, it's something, it's a tool we might be able to use. I
Thank
have
you.
a really hard time with this issue just because it is so difficult to get the state to understand what's truly going
Yes.
on the ground.
Thank you, Mandy. I'd like to get to Sage, please, if you're finished. Thank you. Sage, please.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment about that since before I was on council, but since I have been on council, I have a folder that has to do with short-term rentals, and it's not thin. That's all I gotta say. But from the get-go, even before I really knew anything about being on council, when I read SB 1350, all I could say was, they've given us the tools. They gave us the tools to regulate. We may not tell them that they can't do it, but we can certainly regulate them. And we already have problems with traffic and parking and trash and health and safety. And I can tell you this weekend that we've had at least 2 Airbnb problems that the cops had to show up for. Alan Muma was out at 3:30 in the morning. I hear him leave under my bedroom window, and he was still out after dealing with that at 8:30 in the morning when I went to work. He was just taking a break to eat breakfast because people cannot behave in the B&Bs up here. But SB 1350 in the first sentence of it gives you a clear option to do exactly what Sedona has done here. And I think that we should go in this direction, because if we don't do something to slow things down with the B&Bs up here, we're not even going to be a town. We're not going to have any residents to have a council. And from what I can tell, that's the way it's going. I did want to kind of mention something for Jane. Just for an example, I have a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1 kitchen. I do have a roommate that uses the downstairs, and because I have no off-street parking on my house, I am only allowed to have a permit for Verdi for my vehicle and a second vehicle. She doesn't have a vehicle, so right now it's not an issue for us. But when it comes time, Verdi's full. There are no more permits. When it comes time, when she goes and gets her stuff from Hawaii to come and stay here permanently again, I will give up one of my parking permits for Verdi so that she can park on Verdi. Because if you don't have the parking off street for whether it's residential or B and B, we have in the residential areas, most of them anyways, we have the residential parking permits, and you're only allowed to have so many of those. And the temporaries don't fly when the street's full and the residents need to park there. So I think that might help if, just for the thought of how the parking is working. But I really feel like we should follow Sedona's lead. I've been talking about this for 3 years, that SB 1350 gave us the tools to regulate. We might not be able to stop them, but we certainly can regulate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mandy, did you ever follow up? Because I see your hand still up there. It's gone.
No, I just forgot to take it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other items? Bill, just the heads up on the HOA stuff. I was thinking of it's like on East Street that I live on the corner of East and Holly, 6 houses, develop an HOA for those 6 houses. Have 2 people on the board to regulate any potential short-term rentals on that. On Holly Street, an HOA on Holly. Not one big one, not many big ones, but many small ones with a limited board of 1 or 2 people that can regulate them, just like that town near Phoenix. Whatever, the woman mayor down there, she did a great job with that. So anyway, that was our thinking. Any other questions or comments, please? Sage, you got your hand up there? I'm not sure. No?
Can you hear
Sorry?
me, Jack?
Yeah, oh, there you, I can't, now I hear you. I can't see you, but yes, I hear you, Alex, please.
Okay, I seem to be having some issues. I tried to raise my hand. I'm gonna stop my video. Can you still hear me?
Yes, hear you clearly now. Yes.
Okay, so I think that the ordinance that we have in front of us that,
Oops. Lost you.
Lost you, Sage. I mean, Alex.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I agree. We should work towards this DONA short-term city code rental regulation, that we should use this and craft something in this regards with the 60-minute call time of having someone be responsible.
Okay. Thank you.
And I also wanted to ask a question.
Yes.
Okay, so after, in our council packet that we have, after the city code, we have a page that I think is from SB 1350. Is this correct? The bottom of the page says item C about violations.
Yes.
I wanted to point out that we need to follow through with these violations because Airbnb recently delisted 50 properties that received regular and repeated complaints per the Goldwater Institute. So this is one of our tools that we have in place that we need to make sure that we're doing, because our problem vacation rentals could get shut down if we do the right thing. Has everyone read item C on this? Does everyone understand this? And are we doing this?
I don't know about doing it. That's, I don't think so.
Well, I know that when the cops get involved, that whoever we need to put in charge of following up and making sure that everyone that needs to know about it knows about it. And if we have problems, that is one of our tools that we can use to get these properties delisted.
Good. So Candace, that's something maybe talk with Chief Moma and see if we can coordinate a way to keep track of that and report it when needed.
And talk about reporting to the Department of Revenue and to the owner of the vacation rental.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Any other suggestions, comments for direction? No? Oh, Jane, yes, please.
I'd just like to do whatever we can
Yeah, I agree.
to
Stop them.
do whatever's within our legal power to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no upside in having them here. I agree 100%. Thank you. Okay. Candace, you got everything you need out of that? Thank you, Bill. I think, Bill, you have anything else for the good of the order?
No, Dr. Mayor, thank you for bearing up with me.
No, I love it. Anybody, if there are no further,
Mayor,
yes?
Terry
Yes.
Klein has her hand up.
Okay, where is? Hello, where is she?
Terry,
Terry. I see
Hi,
your hand.
guys. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Yes,
Great. Thank you so much. I have just one comment or request. I know we're all feeling the same way about this issue. And I would just like to urge council and Candace and Bill Sims to hear a different legal perspective. Everybody knows that we have a group of residents very concerned about this issue. Our council is a subject matter expert, a litigator, is handling, a similar special action litigation with Glendale right now. It's Jeff. So I guess I just want to know why are you not considering a different legal perspective when we have one to offer? Or would you consider doing that?
Dr. Mayor, may I respond?
yes, please, Bill.
I sent a specific email to him acknowledging his points and asking if he would join. I'd be happy to join with him to work through a solution, and I heard nothing.
Oh, okay. So,
They-
well, I'm sure you will hear from him, Bill. I didn't know that.
I did. We're trying to work this out.
Right. It's great that you sent him an email and then you heard nothing and I guess you dropped it, but. it
No,
would be
I would argue he
wonderful if we
dropped.
could
I would
get
argue
he
together. We're
dropped it.
certainly
Terry,
willing to schedule
Terry,
something.
Why
Terry,
can't I'm in?
Terry, you're getting that wrong. He dropped it, not
I
Bill.
didn't drop it. I sent him an
He
email.
dropped, Jeff dropped.
Oh, no,
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 I
no.
understand that. I understand he might not have replied to a single email that Bill sent.
Just even chime in.
Excuse
Hello?
me?
Can you please mute yourself, Sally?
I've been trying all evening to unmute myself. I'm sorry. I would like to unmute myself right now. I'm sorry. I just have an iPhone. I'm ill prepared, but honestly, it doesn't matter who is upset with whom. Can we just please sit in a room together and discuss our legal options, please?
Yes,
Thank you. So I don't care about Mr. Sims feeling upset. I would like to hear his perspective. I would like to hear Jeff's perspective because I am on board with whatever we can do. And I'm tired of hearing people say there is nothing we can do. And I'm sorry, I'm so illiterate computer-wise that it took me this long to chime in.
Well, we appreciate your comments and we'll make a,
Okay.
thank you, Sally, and we'll set, Candace, I think we just need to facilitate a conversation. Bill,
Yes, Because there's more than one legal option.
yes.
Okay.
So Bill, would you be able to follow up with him, see if you can have a conversation and let us, we're going to be getting together on the 11th. And if we get something sooner that we need to get together for a special meeting, please let Candace know and we'll see what we can do. But I agree that
We are all on the same side.
absolutely, no, Sally, we're in agreement. We're in 100% agreement. I want to try to make sure we facilitate the communication and work together effectively.
Dr. Mayor, we have discussed 5 options. I'd be happy to
Yes.
discuss those with Jeff.
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you.
Sally. Thank you, Terry. We appreciate the efforts that you're doing on behalf of the town as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry it took me so long to get there.
No, but we got you got your message there. It came across and we're going to follow up with it appropriately. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Thanks. So Bill, you got it.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Jane's hand up before we let you off the hook.
Just one more thing.
Yes, please.
I'm always going to say, this is a commercial use in a residential neighborhood. These are not residential uses. And if we can get statewide support and approach our legislators and convince them that these are commercial uses in our residential neighborhoods, I think that would be helpful.
It's the
Thank you.
second half of that that has been a struggle for the last 5 years.
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
Hey,
Well,
give it another
yeah.
shot.
I don't give
Thank you,
up.
Jamie.
Right.
Thanks, Bill. Any other questions, comments for Bill before we let him go off? Late as he is, sorry, Bill.
No, it's a joy working with you guys.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much, Bill.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks,
best.
Counselor.
Bye-bye.
Quick recovery. Thank you. Moving right along, let's go back up there to staff and council reports, please. Candace.
Okay. Okay, I'm not muted, good. Over the last month, Alan and I, with Alan, I went to or attended online, the design review board meeting for the restroom project, and they did approve that. That will be on planning and zoning, not this month, but next month, when we have more detailed plans. Continued work on the drainage improvement project with ADOT, including letters to property owners where access and utility easements will be needed, and provided an update to the NACOG committee about that. I also continued work on the CDBG grant for Dundee, Deception, and Holly, attended a pre-bid meeting and the bid opening. And on that issue, I have a little bit of new news. I don't have the exact number, but the grant we received was in the mid 300,000s. The bid for Deception alone, I mean, for Dundee alone, the low bid was well over 500,000. So there's no way we're going to be able to do all three projects. We may be able to do Dundee. Our engineer is looking at it to see if he can, reduce the scope somehow. The contractor, it's Paul Peterson, was the low bid. They'll work together to see what we can do to make it within our ability to do that project. We're clearly going to have to add some money to it, but I'll have more information on that. Hopefully we can discuss it at our January meeting. I submitted the request and received reimbursement from SHPO for $20,000 for the design guidelines. Drafted the sign ordinance amendment and a detailed staff report for P&Z, and they'll be looking at that tomorrow night. That was based on what council had done, had reviewed and suggested at their last meeting. Participated in an interview with Todd Morris about area transit. He was doing interviews for that project. We met with Judy Saltrip, mayor, and I with Senator Kelly's office about the possible assistance by them in getting funding for our wastewater plant. I haven't heard anything further at this point. I'm trying to still get some more information about the voting initiative about the town manager residency requirement. I still haven't found anything that says that it was approved by the voters. And I did find where the town, well, we'll go into that at another time, but I'm still looking at that, and that's why that ordinance is not back on for second reading yet. The auditors were here. It went smoothly. Yay, Melanie. It all went really well. They were in and out very quickly and they had no problems. And they'll be presenting probably soon in January, I would think. With Rosa, Rosa and I have been very, very busy handling things for planning and zoning. It's really taken a great deal of our time. Along that line, and it's not in my report because I just got it, we do have an applicant for a zoning administrator. And we also have 2 applicants for municipal magistrate. So what I'm going to suggest is that we have a special meeting soon to do interviews for those 2 positions.
Yep.
And I'll send out a doodle poll about that.
Thank you.
Other than that, it was the usual day-to-day stuff. If you look at sales tax revenues, there they are. They're still pretty
Still doing
amazing.
good.
And water flows are still holding steady. So that's my report.
Thank you. I'd like to, thank you, Candace. And one quick comment, shout out to the fire department, Rusty the gang. Thursday, they hosted and helped manage with Spectrum our distribution of booster shots for our citizens. And they were free. The rain was detrimental to a really great turnout, but we did give 89 shots. We had 89 people come and get boosters on Thursday. And the fire department was tremendously helpful. taking nurses via their little ATVs to homes where people couldn't leave and gave them their shots in their house. So it worked very well, just to give you a heads up, above and beyond for the fire department. Thank you very much, Rusty and the gang. Moving right along, planning, zoning, and design
Mayor,
review.
you
Yes,
want
sorry.
a motion to accept the staff reports?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. May I get a motion to accept staff report?
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Sage. Next, is there a second?
Second,
Second,
Jane. I got Jane there and Alex. And any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
aye.
Thank you. Staff and council reports accepted. Let's move to planning and zoning. We don't need any action. Any questions or comments on the minutes received? Hearing none. Petition, we'll move to petitions from the public.
Mayor, we have
Yes.
approval of minutes also, council minutes,
Oh, the council minutes, where are they? I don't,
item 5.
item 5, sorry, I jumped that. My mistake. Approval of minutes from the.
I would make a
October
motion.
20 Yes,
I would make a motion to approve both the Tuesday, October 26th minutes and the Tuesday, November 9th minutes.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
and we have a second from Mandy. Any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, yes, Jane, you have a question?
I just have one. Let's see, these are from the November 9th. And that was item 10D. It said that I had received complaints regarding in-person meetings. And what I had said was I had received complaints regarding lack of in-person meetings.
Back up. Thank you for clarifying that.
thanks.
Minor detail.
Yes, minor.
So
Thank
what
you
I
so
would
much.
amend my motion
Yes,
to approve both of those minutes with the changes to item 10C on the November, I have to find the date, November
9th,
9.
9th,
May
that
I-
Jane just mentioned.
Thank you, Sage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'll maintain
Nick.
my second.
thank you. Candace has a question or
Suggestion.
comment.
The closed session minutes, Jane had recused herself, so she was not part of those closed sessions.
Yes,
So you might want to do the open session minutes separately from the closed session.
yes. I think what we're doing right now, the open session. Is my understanding. Is that correct? And then we'll go to the close.
The minutes that I just made a motion to approve are both
Yeah.
conducted via Zoom.
Yes,
They're not special meeting.
okay, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Those minutes have been approved. So now we need the closed session meeting minutes
Yes,
from October 26th and the closed session on November 9th, please. Any comments or additions, corrections? Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion to approve them.
So Candace, you said that Jane was not in the November one?
I don't have those in front of me. I'm sorry, but I believe there was at least one of them she was not in. Jane, do you know which one it was?
I was in the first one and not the second one.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you so much, Jane. Thanks. Good.
So I would make a motion to approve October 26th. Closed session.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Thanks, Mandy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, then we have the second closed session on November 9th, please,
And I will make a motion to approve November 9th closed
session. Thank you.
And I
Sage.
will second.
Thank you, Mandy. Any discussion on that?
session.
Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Approval of all the minutes presented. Now let's please move to petitions from the public. Do we have any? Candace?
no, we don't.
Jane, you have your
Excuse me?
hand up? I'm sorry. No.
I have a question, Mayor. This
Yes,
is Rosa.
Yes, Rose.
Jane had to abstain, right, from
Yes.
a couple of
Yeah.
those, so Jane, you had to abstain from which closed session votes?
November 9th.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rosa. Thanks, Jane. So I'm hearing that there are no petitions from the public. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okey dokey. Moving right along, can we move then to 7B, I
Yes,
believe? 7B, the resolution number 630, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Jerome, Arizona, amending the adopted fee schedule regarding planning and zoning, design review, and Board of Adjustment fees. We can adopt this if we care to. Are there any discussion, please? Jane?
Yes. I thought we had passed something that if paint colors and roofing of the same material was an administrative approval. Is that not correct?
that's correct.
But there's still a fee for it?
That was what's in there. I mean, if you don't want to charge
Yeah.
it, we can take that out.
I suppose it
ordinance.
is staff time. So that was just a comment that I had.
Yeah.
And then the other one was large alterations on here are actually less than new construction of accessory features. And I wondered if that should be the same or not.
Sage, I
Let's
see your
see.
hand up.
Large alterations under $500 or $25. And then new construction of accessory features are $50. And I'm just wondering, I don't know, accessory features are usually small alterations as well. I don't know. That was just some
Okay.
comments I had about it. and
Does
other than
anybody
that,
else
I'm
have any
fine.
follow-up on that or thoughts on that, the points that Jane has raised? No, thank you, Jane. Sage, I
I
see your
do.
hand up and waving.
We'll let Alex had something to
Oh,
go.
Alex.
Jane.
Where's Alex? I don't see Alex on here at all. Well, there you are,
I
Alex.
agree.
Alex,
We lost you, Alex.
yeah, we lost Alex.
She's down in the bottom corner.
Oh, there she is.
There I am.
Yay.
I agree with Jane about the large alterations. If we're gonna charge $50 for a new construction of accessory features, we should charge $50 for the large alterations.
Thank you. Now
So-
I
that,
also have one more thing to talk about.
yes,
Work
please.
without approval. Work without approval. If you start work that you didn't get approved, we're gonna double your building fees. And
Yes,
most of
please.
Yeah,
That's-
good.
that's
I
in
like
there.
it.
Yes,
Most of the municipalities around us, they make you tear it down, go through the boards and rebuild.
Wow.
I think that sounds a little harsh, but
Yeah,
I just want everyone to realize that's what other municipalities do. So to double the fees, I think is the least that we should do.
I agree. That's a
It's
great
down
catch.
there. It's on
That's
the
a great
bottom.
catch. Great catch, Alex. So should we change, what action do we, oh, sorry, Sage, let me get to you and then I'll ask my question, Candace.
Just to clarify for Alex, if you go to the very bottom of the page, it is the second thing up from the bottom and it does have double application fees. My concern here was I was pretty sure that when we were discussing neighborhood meeting fees, that we had discussed it being more than $50 because we have actually had neighborhood meetings where we've had to have staff show up on the clock.
Wow.
So, you know, when we have to have the head of Public Works and the head of the fire department and one of the officers to come and talk to us about a neighborhood meeting and to help calm the people down and explain to them why we're doing what we're doing, I think that $50 is way too low.
I had the exact same concern, Sage.
Thanks.
So I
Candace.
think that we need to consider that at, you know, some kind of average for if we had to have that happen again with all of those. I mean, the one that we had, it was almost a 3-hour meeting with three
And
of
who
our
would pay
heads.
that? Who would pay
Doc-
that?
Dr. Mayor, if I might ask Sage a question about
Yes,
what she's
please,
brought up.
please, Mandy. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Sage, I had the exact same note because, you know, sometimes those neighborhood meetings are quick and easy and sometimes they're not. they require at least a little prep staff time. And I was trying to come up with options, and I don't know, my note says maybe plus staff hours. I don't know how that would work, but maybe that would be a solution. I don't know how you feel about that, Sage.
Actually, I think that might be a good idea because right now it says 50 plus the cost of mailings. We could do 50 plus the cost of mailings and any staff time accumulated.
Okay,
And that's exactly what I just wrote down. Thank you. I agree.
good, good. Yay, agreement is good. Mandy, your hand is still up.
Yeah, my hand is still up. The double, sorry. The double the application fee for work without approval, I think is more than reasonable, because I'm kind of getting a little more than frustrated with people doing things without approval. I think it would just, everybody needs to be treated the same, and that's just how it has to be.
Yeah.
But the extension cost. So the first, it's my understanding, and Candace or Sage or somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, the first time they request an extension is just done administratively, and then if they need to request a second extension, then it comes to the board or whoever, whoever made the approval. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that.
So I think that's right. I'm not 100% sure. I'm working with somebody else's computer, and I'm like trying to find all my, figure out where everything is.
Mandy,
yeah.
may I?
Yeah, please.
I recall having this discussion when Dawn Knight was still on here.
Can't hear you, Sage.
It was, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, now we can.
And the discussion that we had was that we wanted it to be the second one because we wanted to try and keep people from continuing doing extensions. So the first one
That's
was.
what I thought.
Yes, that is
Okay.
what we discussed.
Thank you. I'm glad
Thank
I'm
you, Sage.
still remembering stuff. So I guess my request on that is that extension of approval, like it should say the first one is, like a smaller administrative fee, $25 or something. And then all subsequent extensions are $200 each. I mean, that was kind of what I was thinking we'd put in there.
I like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's good.
got it.
Where it's, enough to like cover the paperwork process on the first one. I don't know whether that would be 25 or 50 or what that would be, but, and then I don't even, I mean, the $200 extension fee, I think is good. And then let's kind of maybe reevaluate these in a year or two and see what best practices have been working and not working.
Yeah, good.
I think that would be reasonable. There was one other thing, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here, make sure, I'm not sure if it got answered yet. Conditional use. I don't know where it is. If I find it, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Good. Okay, so Candace, we can just make that change. We don't have to do any.
No, we can make that change, but can I clarify what you want to do?
Yes.
with the large
Yes, please.
alterations?
Yes, please.
The large alterations, we have right now, the existing fee is under 500 in value, $25, and then 501 to $10,100, and then above 10,000, 1% of the value up to a maximum of 500. Do you want to make the bottom number 50 instead of 25 to match the accessory features fee?
I have no problem with that.
Is that good with the rest of council?
Everybody say, yeah, I think so. It's not gonna break the bank.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
thanks, Alex.
Okay,
I found my note. I'm sorry.
Damn.
On large alterations, the more than $10,000 in value, where currently it is 1% of value up to a maximum of 200. And the suggestion is to increase the maximum to 500. I guess I'm curious how we feel about that being the max.
Any comment from anyone? No?
And what other municipalities might be doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nothing,
So
okay.
I don't know what action needs to be taken on that regard, Candace, if any.
Well, before we adopt the resolution, I just want to clarify the changes that we're making to it.
Great, thank you. Can we move along, or we still need to continue our discussion on this?
If I could just go down what the changes that I have written down here.
Yes,
are,
please.
For the neighborhood meeting, it will be $50 plus the cost of mailing, plus the cost of staff time.
Yes,
And for large alterations under $500 in value, it will be $50 and not $25.
yes,
And extension of approval. The first extension would be $25 and all subsequent extensions would be $200.
yes.
And that's what I have so far, unless you want to change that max $500 for large alterations over 10,000.
I don't think so at this point. We could back maybe down the road, but right now I think you've hit some of the important ones.
All right,
And
you can come
everyone's
back
in
to this
agreement.
with a resolution at any time to change.
Yeah, no, this is good. I think we got some good numbers and everybody is okay with it. So that's a good thing. Thank you all very much. Alex, did you have a comment? Nope.
I
Okay.
do. The 10,000 in value, it says 1% of value up to max. Down below it adds for new construction costs not to exceed. Why can't we just say 1% of value and cost and not cap it off? Just say 1% of the value. Can't we just get rid of the words of max?
Sure.
How does the rest of the county feel about that?
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
I am too. I mean, I did the math on that. And so
Yeah.
if we set the max at 500, which is what the suggestion was here, that's only like, that's not a lot of work. It's like $50,000 worth of work.
Yeah. So 1%. No, I think we're all in agreement. We're all in agreement on that, Candace. So thank you for catching that, Alex. Thank you.
So we'll just say 1% of value.
1% and get rid of the max.
All right, without the max.
Excellent. Keep it
Alright.
clear. So I'm going to be moving on to our unfinished business, please.
No, Mayor, we need a motion to adopt this resolution.
Oh, we
Yeah.
do on this one. Okay. Yes, we do. Thank you.
I-
Can I get-
I'll make a motion to adopt with the changes as recommended by council to the
Thank you, Mandy. A
town
second.
manager.
Second,
Thank you, Sage. We have a motion and a second to make the recommended changes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you all. Great, good stuff. That's helpful. Moving to unfinished business on item 8A, Jerome Pioneer Ceremony. I love Dave Garner's work and what he's recommending. And I think having goats graze on the cemetery is a good idea. And what, for $400 a year or something like that? Any thoughts on that further discussion to help prevent the fire hazard and keeping the brush and weeds in check? It seems to be effective on the cemetery that they're right now, the other cemetery. And I appreciate his volunteerism on all this. Yes, Jane.
He's not here, is he?
No, he's
At
not.
the meeting. Just from having goats and taking care of goats before, they love to rub on things and jump on things. And my concern would be damaging some of the graves that are there. It's not like this is a well-maintained cemetery and the headstones are solidly in the ground. There are some wooden crosses and things like that that are not real stable. And I would want to make sure there's no damage being done
Okay.
if this takes place.
Would you be okay
And,
having a conversation with Mr. Garner and because he's been doing it at another cemetery and get your questions answered to your comfort level? And we don't have to make an action today, but certainly I want you to be comfortable with the response on that, if it's right. If it's not, then we won't.
Well, I definitely would like to see,
Good,
I would definitely like to see the cemetery kept in better
yes.
repair. And I think a fence around it would be a really good
Good
thing.
start. It's a good start. Yes.
So I just want to make sure there's not damage done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Any
I
other
love
questions or
those.
suggestions how we could go forward with that, or that makes sense? You know, with Mr. Garner, or, you know, whether, you know, having Jane speak with him, going forward with the fence. What are your thoughts, please? No, because that's a good point. I don't want to do any damage. I mean, I think there's been enough damage to the graves already, those that have been there. Absolutely. Yes, Candace.
Can I suggest that the fence needs to be repaired, period?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that it would be good to go ahead and fix the fence.
Do the fence for sure.
As far as the goats go, I haven't heard from the other council members how they feel about it. If everybody is wanting to defer to Jane, since she's the goat expert, maybe you could talk to Dave and you know, come up with something, and you could.
An idea. If it's not a good idea, we won't do it. Absolutely.
Her opinion about it.
Absolutely.
And
But I
say-
like getting the fence done. Let's, sorry, Sage, please.
Yeah, I agree with getting the fence fixed. But I also agree with Jane. I had in my early 20s, a lady that was kind of like a second mom to me, and she raised many goats. She had, I think, almost a dozen goats, and
Wow.
they can be excessively rambunctious. And
Wow.
they can break things very easily, and they do really, really like to bounce off of things, like with their head. So
Okay.
it would be a good idea to have Jane talk to this guy and
Oh, if
see.
you're,
how
thank you,
he's gonna
Sage.
handle that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, because I have no experience with that, but I think that's a great, thank you. You know, but I certainly think the fence is a great idea, and then maybe if Jane's willing to have that conversation. I see Mandy has a hand up.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Yeah, the fence for sure. I think we're all in the same page on that. But I do want to, I just want to note that goats are, number one, green friendly. This is always a good thing, but they're used to do groundskeeping all over the world as an alternative to groundskeeping. And they use them in cemeteries, especially they're really common on the East Coast. And so I guess maybe I'm curious, you know, based on the concern, and I agree with the concern that Jane brought up, like, have they done any damage to, you know, the cemeteries in DC that have stones that are 600-700 years old, or, you know, I guess that would be my question for her
Sure.
to ask Dave and maybe do a little digging on it, just see, because they have been used. So I guess I want to see what the precedent is.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a directive. If we can go forward with that, we'll do the fence and get some more information about the goats.
And
And worst case scenario, we'll have goats, rotisserie goats for snacks. So-
Mayor.
Joke, sorry, Sage, it's joke.
Jara has her phone, her hand up.
Who does?
Jara.
Kara, where are you? I don't
Kara.
want to see.
I'm just a little silhouette thing.
Oh, there you are, Jess. Yeah, I see you now up in the corner. Got you, sorry.
Yeah, because I live close to the cemetery, so I would be curious to know how much they're going to be contained and herded, because I've actually raised goats and been at goat farms, and yeah, they can wander and do a lot of stuff.
Cool.
So
Good.
yeah.
No, we got to get the facts. You're absolutely right. I have no idea. I can make jokes.
Mr. Mayor,
about it.
may I
That's
clarify
what it-
something for her?
Of
I was
course.
about to do that. Go ahead, Sage.
Jara, you live at the cemetery, you live next to the cemetery in Jerome. We're talking about a cemetery in Clarkdale that is owned by the town.
Ah, okay. All right. All
Thank
right.
you for clarifying.
Okay, thank
Sage.
you.
Thank you, Sage. Yay, that was a good one.
Yay,
Well
thanks.
done. Well done. Thank you. Jane, are you okay with that? What we're doing, approve the fence and then, have a conversation and the next meeting based on your observation and things will yay or nay. So that's good. Thank you. Okay, moving to 8B, tour bus businesses. We will review and may approve current tour routes for our tour businesses and discuss possible amendments to the town code in that regard. Candace, where are we at with this?
Well, all of the tour businesses have submitted
Yeah.
updated tour routes for council's
Yep.
review. And
look-
so what we're asking for you to do is look at these and either approve them or disapprove parts of them, whatever you see fit to do with the tour routes, because you do have to approve the tour routes. They can't operate on those unless you approve them. These are updated.
Hey,
And then
I see Alex's hand up. when
Chief
you're finished.
Muma has made certain recommendations for amendments to the code, which I put in my memo, which is restricting hours of operation to eliminate any tours after 11 at night.
Yes,
He said either prohibit tours in commercial areas where residences are located or restrict the hours of operation there to no later than 9 or 10 PM. And prohibit the use of amplified sound and prohibit tour vehicle parking on Main Street, Jerome Avenue, or Hull Avenue when not in use except for loading or unloading. And that one I would want to check with the town attorney to see what we can do with that. You know, it's a nice idea, but we'll
Yeah.
make sure that we can do that.
absolutely.
And then also council had talked about limiting the number of licenses to be issued for tour
Yes.
businesses.
Those are all the points we raised, yes.
And then we also talked about the tours in residential areas that had permission of the property owner. I believe Aaron was saying that he went up to a home on County Road because the property owner had invited him to do that. But that does go through residential areas. So council should probably clarify
The
that,
rule.
whether that's allowed or not.
Great,
Right
We
now,
got-
it says it's not. So,
okay. We have Alex, then Sage, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I agree with Chief Muma's recommendations.
Yeah.
I think we should either cap off our tour companies at 3 or maybe possibly 4. We should talk about that. Do we want another tour company or do we have enough, council?
yeah,
And then I also have one more thing to say about the Jerome Ghost Tours. Heading up to the top of County Road to the gate of the mine entrance, that is residential. So in all these routes of all these tour companies, that's the only thing that I would say no to. Jerome History Walk, revision number 2, going up to the top of County Road. Everyone else just goes to the Holy Family Church there. So again, he said that he had permission from a residence to go up there, but it's still residential and not everyone wants them up there.
yeah.
Thank you.
Good points. Thank you very much, Alex. Sage, please.
Yes, thank you. So I'm gonna agree also with Ms. Barber. I personally prefer the idea of restricting hours of operation to no later than 10 PM, period. And I mean residential and commercial area because we have residents in the commercial area. And I think that parking on the main street, my first concern is that that's ADOT right away, not town right away. So I don't know that we could do that, but I also want to add, because my county road was my thing too, Miss Barber, but also the cemetery. They have
Yeah.
permission from UVX to go to the cemetery, but they have to go down north and that is R15.
Yes,
So I think that also the Ghost Town Tours route is unacceptable if they go to the cemetery. And I believe he does County Road. And then he also does the Pandora and the Jerome Ghost Tours. He does the Jerome History Walk, which takes him up to the mine entrance on County Road. And then on the Pandora's box, number 8, from there, we will depart the old high school and head to North Street where we will pit stop at the cemetery. That's through residential neighborhood.
All
Those are
good
my
points.
only issues at this
Those are
point,
good
but I think
ones.
tapping the time for 10 o'clock period for tours might be a really nice thing for everybody that lives in this town.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Let's get to Jane and then I see Jara again, hand up. Jane?
One of the things that Alan suggested, prohibit the use of amplified sound. What about including bright lights in that as well? Because that's been one of the things people have talked about, bright lights flashing in their windows at night.
Thank you.
Also, do we need to say that walking tours are included in, specify that walking tours are not supposed to be in the residential zones as well as the vehicles?
I think so.
I'm definitely in favor of a cutoff point. I thought 9 o'clock, but if everybody thinks 10 o'clock, I
And
guess.
the youngins, the young people.
Yeah.
I'm with you though, Jane.
And then I believe that our requirements are that the businesses are required to have parking for their own vehicles. And if they can't provide parking on private property where they operate the tours for all of their vans, that doesn't seem like that fits in with the zoning ordinance. I don't know how many vehicles some of these places have, but if they don't have parking for all their vans on their private property, then that doesn't seem like it complies with the zoning or with the requirements of the conditional use permits. I don't know. That would be
Thank you.
something I would
Good
want to
question.
check out as well.
Yeah, good question.
And then how do
Next-
we regulate tours that are coming up that are not operating out of town, that operate somewhere else? Because I've been told there's a van that comes up to the cemetery from some other place, so that's not one of the local tours.
Huh.
So those are my comments.
Thank you. We've got Mandy, and then I see Sage again, and then Jera.
Thank you, Dr. Jack. In the tour company ordinance, 853B says that they have to, they're subject to the requirements of the zoning ordinance regarding parking, signage, and other matters. And so I guess I have to go back and see the exact words. I'm sure Sage might have them right off the top of her head, but it is, I mean, it's always kind of been my understanding that if a business takes over a building or a space in a building and changes the type of use of that space, that they need to have the appropriate parking available.
Thank you. Okay, Sage, so you didn't have your hand up, but Jara did.
Yes, and I live on North Drive and I get the brunt of most of the tours and they've increased quite a bit. I think there's at least 3 different tours that come through.
Wow.
And a lot of times they're there till 1 a.m. Very
Wow.
bright light. Yeah, and they stop at the tamale lady's house and do their little spiel, and then like even
It's
tonight they were.
unacceptable. That's very unacceptable.
Yeah, that's been, and it's increased quite a bit this year. And there's times when there's at least 3 vans down there and it's hard to keep track
Wow.
of who's who. Some drive slowly and there's like a newer van that comes through that drives pretty fast, and North Drive is getting really kind of torn up. So there's a lot of traffic, especially on the weekends and stuff, but yeah.
We have to make sure Chief Mom is aware of that, Candace.
Mhm.
That's really.
Yeah, and also as far as just even when they're down there, I can hear them like when they're being kind of crazy and yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
like, they think
Not
they're
good. Yeah.
all
it's
part of it.
unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Thank you, Jara.
all right.
Sage, see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jara, you can call the police when they are down there doing that. According to our ordinance, they
Yeah.
are not supposed to be going through the neighborhoods,
Right.
let alone stopping at residential houses, whether someone lives in them or not. So especially if they're out that late at night, I would call.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
This is
they do it, not so much like on a Monday, but the weekends, it's busy all the time, stopping at Tamale Lady's house, just sitting there. And yeah, tonight the lights were facing this way, but yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of people coming through in general that want to go down to the cemetery that actually park their car because they can't even make it down there and they're low to the ground and
Wow.
leave their cars running. And I've told them, hey, you can't leave your car there. It's like 11 o'clock at night. So there's a
Crazy.
lot of activity. Yeah.
Well, we got to make sure the police are covering that. Thank you, Jared. Thanks, Sage. Mandy, your hand is still up. Is that new question, comment?
New comment. I just want to note that there's definitely, I guess from a safety perspective, I have concerns when the vehicles are, driving on dark roads that are not necessarily the best of roads. I'll admit that. Thank you, Tara. And what's our liability, but also, which I think was the whole reason for us saying that we don't want the residents to be bothered, but also a safety concern with too much traffic on the roads. But also just making sure that the tour companies are very clearly aware of trespassing issues, because there have been problems even in the commercial district.
Yep, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, so on this, so where do we leave this now, Candace?
You can direct me to make a draft
Yeah.
ordinance for the January meeting that will
Yes,
include the
please.
changes we talked about.
With those new modifications?
Right.
Yes,
And,
please.
and communicate in the meantime with the tour companies to let them know that you have approved their routes, except for anything that goes past the church on County Road and anything that goes down North Drive to the cemetery.
And 10 o'clock is their bedtime.
And well, that will be in the,
In the right, yeah, got it.
the restriction on residential driving through, so it's late, is actually already in the code. So they shouldn't be doing that.
Okay, thank you.
But I would suggest that you make a motion tonight to approve the tour routes, as I just said, with the exception of those particular things, so that I can communicate that specifically.
Sounds good. Could I get a motion for that? Is that
I'll make a
safe?
motion.
Okay, Mandy,
I'll make a motion to approve the tour routes as proposed, with the exception of the locations that go through residential areas to access, as that is already prohibited by the current code.
thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Sage. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Carries. Thank you very
I have
much.
a question.
Yes, Jane.
Did we include, it says that vehicles, commercial vehicles, except for deliveries, et cetera, are not allowed in the residential zones. Should that include the walking tours, not going into the residential zones as well?
I thought they were
believe
mentioned
walking tours
earlier.
are already covered in this.
They're covered. I thought they were covered.
Okay,
yeah, my
Okay.
motion covered the tour route maps, with the exception of those locations where you have to access via residential districts. I didn't specify driving or walking.
Yeah. it's
any
included.
tour.
no, I meant as far as the town code goes, it already specifies, I think it says commercial vehicles, doesn't it, or the commercial activity?
And another
Does that-
part of the code, right? But this also says, our tour business code specifically says they can't operate in or conduct tours through or traverse residential areas of the town of Jerome.
Okay,
And that
okay,
includes
so that
walking
covers it.
and driving. tours.
okay.
Thank you. That's great. Moving to new business. Count members, item 9A, request for abandonment of town right of way. To consider request by Sean Bauer for abandonment of a portion of a town right of way located at 686 Verde Avenue, and may direct staff in this regard. Any discussion on that, folks? Anything, Sage? And then Jane? And we got Alex also. Got it, Alex.
I have a little bit of issue with this because it's our utilities. And from what I can tell, first off, from what I can tell, Sean Bauer is not the owner of the property. He says he's the builder, but I'm pretty sure that he's not a contractor. So I'm a little confused on that part. And he's wanting to combine the two lots so that he has enough space to build a house. Is he going to build over the top of our utilities?
No. Mm-mm. No, he's not. He understands that. He just wants to combine the two lots, which would include that piece of the abandoned right of way, so that the total lot coverage does not exceed what's in the zoning ordinance, 60% or whatever it is. Without that, he can't build the kind of house that he wants to build there because it would exceed the lot coverage requirement. That's why he wants this. And he said, what we talked about was maintaining the utility easement there, abandoning the right of way, but maintaining the easement, which Bill Sims said was possible, which means that he could not build on top of it. We'd have a water line.
It's in between the two lot, probably right, that, got it. He's not building an Airbnb, is he?
I don't know.
Sorry.
You know, I just a little follow-up. I just want to kind of remind people of the, I don't even know how to say it, when the Gulch Radio was talking about putting up their antenna and how many of the neighbors were complaining about how it was going to be tall and it was going to be in their view. And now we have someone who wants to build a house in that same exact spot. And in order for them to do that, we have to give them yet another piece of our property.
Thank you. Thanks, Sage. I see Mandy. Who was the other hand? It was Alex or? So
Alex
let's get Mandy and then Alex. Thank you.
and Jane.
You could go with Alex first. Alex and
Alex
Jane were
first,
Go ahead.
alphabetical order here. Alex.
Okay, I stopped my video so I don't lose audio. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the first thing I have a problem with is the parcel numbers are correct, but it says he wants to construct a home at 686 Verde Avenue, who is someone else's residence. So to have the right number and to maybe have house plans and stuff too, so that we can see what we're actually looking at. Again, the thing that Sage brought up with the antenna, if it's going to be a one-story house or a two-story house, this makes a huge difference in how the neighborhood is going to react. And I have a huge problem with saying yes to anything when we don't even have a correct address. So I think we
It's, the address looks correct. I'm sorry, I guess I'm confused.
I put it up on maps and it is Miss Moss's home is 686 Verde Street.
Oh, I'm in the county records.
Okay, well, if you go to maps and you put it on satellite, just with your phone, it'll show you. I think the correct address is 666 is what I saw according to maps.
Oh, well, then the county's got it recorded wrong.
Clarification.
Yeah, we'll need clarification on that.
Yeah.
Jeannie Moss's address is 645 Main Street.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, map maybe has it wrong. And again, I'm not sure, once you brought that up, you can look on the parcels. But as far as the address, the only thing I saw was 666 on there. The two parcel numbers are correct.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Mandy.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Sorry, I am looking, just for clarification, I am looking at the GIS currently, and one of the parcel ending in 67 does not actually have a physical address. The parcel ending in 69, the county has it recorded as 686 Verde. Now, whether that's correct or not, I am learning really quickly because I'm dealing with the county on something else with this, is not necessarily correct. But so I guess the question I have, I had the question that Sage had. I guess I'm confused
Just for a second.
as far as like
Light on so I can put my.
who's actually building this house and for who? Because again, looking at the GIS, that, you know, Sean's not the owner of record. So I would want some clarification on what the heck's happening with that. That would be really nice. And then even just a general sketch of what is being considered as far as lot coverage, so that we can see where that utility easement would remain so that we have access. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand over there. Who's that? Is that Cameron?
Yes.
Hi, Cameron. The hand I saw earlier looked like an applause hand. That's why I wasn't sure whether you wanted to speak or just whatever.
No,
But-
I wanted to speak, but we're driving in the middle of the dark, so.
Okay,
might
be safe. Be safe. How?
Yeah.
Please.
Well, I'm the passenger. I'm always the passenger of life. But I actually had a procedural question because you're talking about, you know, it sounds like the abandonment of right of way, which Bethany and I know all too well the process in which to get that done. But it's actually a lot combination and a right of way abandonment in order to create a larger lot size. And I think it has been aired by others that there's no plans, no idea what's going to be built there, but it sounds like it's a deal to combine a lot. And when I looked on the council meeting minutes, Mandy is right. The petitioner is the builder, but the owner is someone who lives in Wisconsin or Michigan. So, you know, we don't know who's actually asking for the combination of the lot, but they're asking for you to abandon a right of way, which means an extra, 20 feet of land for them. So that's something to understand. What is it they're actually asking for, and why are they asking for it?
Great points. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Mr.
Um,
Mayor?
Okay.
Dr.
so-
Mayor,
Mayor?
oh, Sage first, sorry.
At this point, I would like to make a motion to table this until we get further
Yes.
information and clarification.
I'll
Yes.
second her motion, but then I have a comment.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor that's seconded to table this discussion till we get more information.
Correct. And
Any
and I-
discussion? Let's get
I
some.
have a
discussion.
little bit,
Excuse
if
me?
that's okay, Dr. Mayor. I do have one more thing.
Okay, but we
I'm
also
gonna-
have Jane wants to speak as well.
Oh, I'm maintaining my second. I just wanted to point out that in order to combine parcels, in order to do a lot line adjustment or combine parcels, you have to show that there's a hardship reason there's a hardship that is causing that.
Thank you. That's their responsibility to present that to us. Thank you. Jane, yes, please.
Having been involved in a couple of abandonments in the past on the council, you definitely need to take a look at who else it might impact. And I agree, we definitely need a lot more information on this.
Yep.
This one isn't in a commercial zone necessarily, but surrounding neighbors, lots of questions
Lots of
on
questions.
this.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so
Thank you.
impacts to others.
Yep. Any other Sage, yes, please.
Just real quick, I want to follow up with that. If he is planning on building a house there, he would have to come up with off-site parking because there's no more parking left on Verde.
Thank you. No, I think everyone's correct. There are a lot of issues here, a lot of unknowns. And I think before we jump into the water, we really gotta check the depth. So yes, we have our motion, we have our discussion. Is all those in favor of the motion, please say aye to table this.
Aye.
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 Opposed, no.
Aye.
Okay, it's tabled. So we got, and Candace, you have an idea. There's a lot of information we need to get on
Yeah.
this so we can make a good decision.
Okay.
Thank you. And then we're moving to item 9B, Prop 202 funding request. We did decide, we need to get this Prop 202 funding distribution so we can get it from the Yavapai Apache Nation. I didn't know if folks here had projects or thoughts that would be appropriate. I see we have a couple of hands. We'll start with Sage and Alex. Can we go with Alex and then Sage?
Alex was first, yeah.
Alex, you're number one, then Sage.
Our bathrooms that we're talking about, excuse me, our bathrooms that we're talking about building.
Yep, that's a good one. Thank you.
Rusty also is in support of that.
Thank you. Yep. You read my mind on that one. Good job. All right, Sage.
I have two things written down and I was kind of surprised that Candace didn't give us suggestions this year.
Caught her off guard too. Trust me, she's a busy girl. Yeah.
Suggestions, but public restrooms, the public restrooms that we're looking at doing. But my other
Yeah.
thing is I don't know how many of you have ridden on the town shuttle lately. That thing is a rattle bucket.
That's a great,
Probably use to buy a new one.
plus,
Because that
that's a-
thing feels very unsafe, even at slow speeds.
thank you, Sage. And another thing, I was talking to, it's Scott, the driver, is that correct? Yeah, great guy, fabulous. Well, during the vaccinations the other day, we were chatting, and he had to come out and turn around. He says, we have to get a bus that's about 8 to 10 inches shorter. This one is way too dangerous to turn corners. So, and to your point, I would think it might not be a bad idea to trade it in and get a van that's a little shorter, that has the safety and issues that you've mentioned, but also that size issue, which I didn't really realize was an issue, but he said it's serious. When he comes out and tries to make a turn, the bus is a little too long. So just a little shorter, 10 inch, 8 to 10 inches is what he was sharing. So you can talk to Scott. But yeah, there are a couple of good things. The restrooms, the bus, the shuttle bus, two good ones. Sage, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, just a follow-up too, is ADA compliant might be nice if we're looking at another shuttle, something that handicapped people can get in and out
Yes.
of easier,
Right.
because that is extremely difficult, even for, I'm not handicapped and I have a hard time getting in and out of that
Gotcha.
dang thing.
Gotcha.
So,
Do we have enough money? I mean, I don't know how much, we're between 18 and 20 grand. Is that about what we're looking at?
Mhm. That's
So I
right.
think the van would probably eat up most of that, but we could trade in this one, so that would help. But I like both the ideas of the public restrooms and the vans. Jane, what do you think?
Well, and the other thing, we could use some of the money from, I think what is it, the hotel tax or something towards
Yes.
the van as
Yes,
well.
yes.
Because I agree, new van and restrooms.
So let's see if we can do both. So which
But
one,
both,
so we
You
present the
know, both those
restrooms?
monies could apply.
What was that?
I said both monies
Yeah.
from the hotel tax and this prop thing could
202,
apply to
yeah.
both of those.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a great idea, and see, how strategically how we do it, Candace. Sage, yes, please, move it over.
sorry, just a point of clarification or
Yeah.
information. Candace, if I recall, we still have some Prop 202 funding left over from the year before last year that we rolled over a little bit. We could use some of that too if we
Oh,
needed
great.
to.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
I think doing both of those things would be great, honestly. Pay the restroom and get a safe, special person, accessible van. I think all will be good, and trade in this one. And I think if we can pull that off, that'd be awesome. So great. Do we need a motion for that, Candace? Or
I
direction?
have the direction, that's fine. It's-
Okay, good. Great. This is really good suggestions. Awesome. Thank you. So I think that takes us to and from the council. All right. I'm afraid, Mandy, I'll let you go first. We'll be here for a while.
I only have one thing. I would like to have a discussion about the Hotel Jerome window bids on the next
Okay.
council meeting. Oh, I'm so sorry. Candace, I do have an inquiry.
Yeah.
The bathroom construction, once that goes through planning and zoning and design review, will that come to council for financial approval?
Well, we have it in the budget.
It's in the
So
budget already.
But like, will we be able to see the numbers so that we can review it?
I can bring it back to you, whatever we have at that point, sure.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else have any to and from? I don't see any here. Jane, oh, yes, Alex, there you go. Alex and then Jane.
I just wanted to let everyone know that the Circle Trail is non-motorized.
Thank you. Jane?
Yes, I've had people in different areas of town ask to have signs on their roads saying dead end or residential traffic only, signs like that. So could we put a discussion item on the next meeting as well for signage on certain roads?
Great.
Travel up and down like the really steep streets in between Verde and Center are one.
Good.
Some down in the Gulch, people trying to go out Allen Springs Road and going up into people's driveways and not being able to turn around.
Oh, God.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
thank you. That's good.
that
I see a
signage.
hand over there. Who is that? Is that, oh, Carol. Yeah, you're muted, Carol. You're muted.
No, sorry.
No worries.
So I live on School Street and we have a real problem with people coming down the street, in spite of the fact that we have signs at the head of the street. However, they are this big. We need, we need bigger
Good, thank
signs,
you.
different signs, because people come down here, they park, they get tickets all the time, and, it's a problem. And it would be, I had this idea of even maybe marking the street that said residential park, putting it on the pavement, residential parking
Yeah,
only.
we can add that to the discussion as well. That could be part of the
I
discussion
think
without
it could
question.
help, because we
Yeah.
don't need them down here. We need.
No, I agree. Thank you so much. That's a great addition. Thank
Okay,
you.
You're welcome.
Now, was there anyone else? Alex, did we get to you on yours? or- Yeah. Anybody else? Or we good? We're good? Got it, Candace? Thank you. So.
Motion to
looks like
adjourn.
I knew I could count on you, Sage. You're so dependable. I love it. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. It is 9:00. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Well, we are adjourned at 9:08 PM. Thank you all so very, very
you.
much.
Good night.
Bye. Have a great night,
All right,
everybody.
stay
Hey,
warm.
enjoy the snow for me.
Yeah, a little snow in the middle of the night tonight, they say, so just be careful.
Oh, wow.
You all have fun with that.
Yeah, all the best. We need it. It'll be great.
Bye.
Lots of love. Bye-bye now.
Good night.